Hi all, welcome back to the final of the Chessable Masters 2020. Yesterday the first set was won by Magnus in the blitz game, so this is the first game I'm going to show you of the second set. Magnus has the white pieces and Anish plays with black, so let's get started. Magnus opens with d4, we have knight to f6, so the Indian game, c4, e6, knight to f3, d5, knight to c3 now, and c5 we have the semi-Teresh defense of the Queen's Gambit declined. Takes on d5, and now e4. Takes on c3, and takes on d4. And Magnus Carlsen has this position on the board, well, many times already. 3 times with white, which converted twice to a win against Vladimir Kramnik in 2016 and against Ding Liren in 2019. We have bishop to b4 now by Anish, bishop to d2, takes and takes, and now castles by black. Still following the same moves as Carlsen Ding and Carlsen versus Kramnik in 2016. We have bishop to c4 now and knight to d7. We have castles and b6 trying to fianchetto that light square bishop. We have rook to d1 and we have bishop b7. We have rook to e1 now and rook to c8. The bishop drops back to b3 and we have rook to e8. And if you look at this position, all pieces are now developed. White has much more room. It has this nice diagonal. The rooks are connected. And if you look at black's position, it's a bit cramped. Black would love to get his knight either to c5 or e5 or something, and maybe get his queen to e7 or something like that. But for the moment, it's just a bit cramped there. We have a rook lift by Magnus, rook to e3 now, at knight to f6, d5, and we have takes on d5 and now e5, kicking the knight from that square. Knight to e4 and queen to e1. So this bishop is very strong, and this bishop is not, unfortunately. This piece is this knight is now pinned, so you have to be careful of takes on e4. So Anish played queen to c7. We have knight to d4 now, and a6 not allowing this knight to come to b5, and now h4 by Magnus. We have rook c to d8. So now Anish also has his rook pair on these files and looking quite solid at the moment. We have f3 kicking the knight back, and the knight goes to c5. We have h5 now, and knight to e6, challenging the knight on d4 and preventing maybe f4 from being played. We have knight to f5 now, and d4. Anish pushes his pawn. But as always, you have to wonder: is this going to be a target for white, or is it going to be a very strong pawn for black? Rook e to d3 is played, and now knight back to c5, giving up the pawn on d4. So we have takes and takes and takes, and now Anish decided to eliminate the light square bishop. It was worth a pawn to get rid of that bishop. So we have knight to takes b3, and now queen to g3. Yes, not taking this knight. You could take this knight, but then black plays something like h6, and the game will continue. White, of course, is much stronger here with ideas of knight to d6, attacking both rook and bishop. And has lots of attacking ideas. Maybe push the f pawn, maybe queen comes here. So white is a lot better, but to play queen to g3 immediately is quite a spectacular move. Saying, okay, I don't care about your piece. I'm just threatening checkmate here. So you have to deal with that first. So Anish played g6, and now Magnus recaptured the bishop. So if we look at this position, it seems extremely dangerous for black. There's all kinds of threats now looming on the horizon, um, with maybe the queen coming to g5 and f6 and g7, or maybe the pawn can go to h7, or even the knight can go to h6. So there's lots of threats going on here. So how is Anish going to defend this? Well, Anish played rook to d8, and unfortunately for Anish, this just completely blundered the game. I mean, the position was bad enough already, but this just doesn't work. Um, so feel free, take a few seconds and try to find the winning move by Magnus Carlsen. So Magnus played e6. Yes, e6, a beautiful move, just saying, sure, grab my queen, why not? But he cannot because the knight covers g7. So if you grab the queen, it will actually be checkmate. And if you grab the rook, you will lose the queen. And if you do nothing, you will also lose the queen. So you have to, and the threat is, of course, pushing that pawn even further. So how can you stop this? Well, Anish tried queen to c1 with check, with king to h2, and now grabbing the rook on d4. So for the moment, Anish is a rook up, but Magnus played e7. Yes, doesn't doesn't care about the rook, doesn't care about potential checks or something, or just plays e7. And now this pawn becomes well nearly impossible to stop. So Anish played queen to c8. You have to stop the pawn somehow. And now knight to e5, threatening checkmate, threatening to take the rook, and threatening to play e8 and queen. So Anish in desperado move played a rook to h4 with check. Um, but also here, uh, Anish didn't even, of Magnus didn't even bother to capture the rook, but he played king to g3. If you have captured the rook, it's still bad news, but Magnus even played just king to g3, just consolidating, and it was in this position that Anish Giri resigned the game, because there's nothing you can do to stop this pawn from queening. So an incredibly beautiful game. Um, I want to go back to this position. This e6 is just an incredible move, and even before that, in this position, it was already quite clear that the position was quite lost. Um, Stockfish suggest here to take the pawn on f3, and after rook to c4, play rook to c6, and knight to d4, and queen takes e5, takes, and you win the bishop. So this is the suggestion by Stockfish, with white just being a piece up and completely winning endgame. But yeah, after rook to d8, we had e6, and yeah, it was game over. So for me, this was just amazing to watch. It was the most beautiful game I've seen this tournament. Also, listening to the reactions of Yasser and Peter, and seeing the reactions of the chat, it's I think many people think this is like the best game of this tournament. So I really do. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do give it a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you again in the next one.